is everybody doing today? Welcome back here today to another episode of the Just Ballin' podcast. The NBA season is about a week through, and I wanted to give you guys about 7 main takeaways that I have through every team's first couple games. Some teams have only played 2 games. Some teams have played 3 games, but I feel like we're learning a lot here at the start of the season. Now, I don't want to react too much, or at least be a little bit short-sighted, because it is a long season. If you went back to last year's season, so much stuff changed between the first month to the third month and the third month to the 5th month. So yeah, I have 7 main takeaways that I wanted to talk about. I'm not going to hit every single team today, but I do think these are maybe 7 interesting storylines, at least to me, so far this season. I'm recording this about midday here on Monday, so if you're listening to this after Monday, I didn't see the Cavs-Pistons game or the Magic-Sixers game or anything like that. And if you guys kind of wanted me to talk about anything specific so far this year, I don't really have like a set schedule of anything that I'm kind of like wanting to talk about. It might just be like what's popping in the NBA, what I think is the most intriguing topic at the moment. Because the thing that I wanted to start off with, the Orlando Magic, maybe to their slow start this year, and particularly about like their main guys playing together. If you look at all qualified lineups, or basically any 5-man lineup this year, that's played at least 12 minutes. It's a very small sample size when you look at the bigger picture of the NBA, but at least have played a total of 1 quarter together. How have they looked? The Magic have the worst 5-man lineup in the NBA by a decent margin. They have a negative 54.4 net rating in 16 minutes with Tyus Jones, Wendell Carter Jr., Desmond Bane, Franz Wagner, and Paolo Banchero. That is an absolute disaster start this season for the Orlando Magic and their main guys. And a lot of their lineups have been pretty bad this year when you look at like the ones that are kind of getting thrown out there. Now, there is a lineup between like Jalen Suggs that has looked all right with Paolo, Franz, Desmond Bane, and Wendell Carter Jr., at least on the defensive end. I just think it's been a weird start right now with Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner working together. Now, if you were on Twitter over the weekend, you probably saw a lot of people dunking on Paolo Banchero, at least his play style so far this year. So they almost lose to the Miami Heat on opening night. They had a nice comeback win. They won 125-121. Then they lose 111-107 to the Atlanta Hawks. And then I don't think it sounded the alarm, but like, all right, it's a weird start. They lose to the Chicago Bulls by double digits, 110-98. And a lot of people are growing a little bit frustrated with Paolo Banchero and his shot diet or shot selection overall this year. Sometimes he likes to play like he's Kevin Durant or Carmelo Anthony and operate out of the mid-range or as a spot-up 3-point shooter, when that really hasn't been his bread and butter in his career. We know Paolo has struggled at least at times with his jumper, and something he kind of struggled with coming out of Duke. And that was a thing that was like one of the main weaknesses coming out of the 2022 draft, was how is he going to be, or could he be a 3-level scorer at the NBA level? Or is he somebody that really needs to operate just inside? Now, Paolo shot 33% in 2024 in his sophomore year, which was a nice increase from his rookie of the year season. Then he shoots 32% from 3 last year, goes down a little bit. And when you're looking at 32%, not the worst in the world. It could be worse than that. But when you're looking at 6 attempts a night at 32%, that is a negative shooter. And now this year he's off to just 16% through his first 3 games. He's shooting 34% from the field. And I think Paolo and Orlando, as I believe they're turning into a smart organization, or R1, and Paolo is a smart player. I'm hoping that he's just going to change his style of play. Who knows? Tonight against Philadelphia, he may just pull like his Scotty Barnes. You watch Scotty Barnes at the beginning of preseason. He's taking a ton of threes, experimenting a little bit. And then you watch like the last preseason game and the start of the regular season. He's toned down the 3-point attempts, or at least the unnecessary ones. And he's kind of knowing his bread and butter, which should be Paolo Banchero's bread and butter, attacking the basket. Paolo, you are 6'10", 250. You are built like a freight train. You are one of the more stronger players in the NBA. Play like LeBron James. You're not LeBron James, but play like him and get downhill, get to the rim, get your free throws. Last year, Paolo shot around 8.5 free throws. That's up to 9 over this year. And I think there's a good chance he could shoot 9 free throws per game this year. I'd rather him shoot, or at least take most of his shots around the basket than on the 3-point line. Give me 15 twos a night. Give me 15 twos and give me like 1 or 2 threes. I do not need to see Paolo shoot 6 threes a game in this type of role that he's in currently with the Orlando Magic, which, like I said, has been off to a weird start this year. You kind of were hoping that Franz Wagner could have been, Franz Wagner has been good, I will say, but the lineups with Franz, Paolo, and Desmond Bane, like their main 3-man lineup this year, has a negative 8 net rating in 2026 through 3 games when those 3 guys are on the floor, which is a little bit disappointing. And people always looked in the past of Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero, and they haven't really had the best numbers when they're out there together. The numbers are a little bit better when Paolo was on the floor, or excuse me, when Paolo was on the bench and Franz is on the floor. And this year they have a negative 7.8 net rating in 65 minutes when both of those guys are out there. And both of those guys are getting paid max rookie extension money. So you would like for them to succeed together, which really hasn't been the case this year. I mean, like I said, it was a good win against the Miami Heat, which I think on opening night you expected them to beat the Heat. But after we've seen the Heat start, maybe it's been a little bit more impressive now just because I think the Heat have, they've looked good so far. Franz shot well in that game. Paolo took 12 free throws in that game. And then it was really like the Hawks loss. I feel like they could have won that one. Paolo was a tough watch down the stretch, and he goes 4-15. He has 3 turnovers, was a -10 on the floor. Franz Wagner was by far the best Magic in that game. And then the Bulls game was kind of rough, man. Paolo goes 7 of 21. Wendell Carter Jr. was a disaster. Tyus Jones hasn't really been off to a great start either this year. I'd like to see more Tristan Da Silva, who I think has looked the part this year. Anthony Black, I think, has gotten off to a solid start as well, at least around the basket. I think they're just going to be some trial and error from the Orlando Magic this year. And they traded a lot of their future draft capital wise for Desmond Bane, who's making max money. So you're so leveraged into these 4 contracts of Bane, Franz, Suggs, and Paolo, with Wendell Carter Jr. making noticeable money as well. So you'd like for that 5-man unit to be good. It has been better when Suggs is on the floor compared to like a Tyus Jones. So that's how important I think Suggs is to this overall defensive unit. It's just going to be, I think, a long season of just figuring out, is Paolo and Franz going to be the main ball handlers, kicking it out to a Wendell Carter Jr. on the perimeter, kicking it out to a Desmond Bane on the perimeter, or Jalen Suggs, or is it the other way around? Because so far this year, Bane has been generating the looks for Paolo and Franz, which I don't really want. I want those guys and Paolo and Franz to have a cleared out paint, get downhill, use their strength, use their physicality to get to the free throw line, get to the rim, where that's their bread and butters. They are some of the better downhill scorers in the NBA, or at least in the Eastern Conference. But if it's Desmond Bane generating these looks, he is not as talented as a downhill scorer than Paolo and Franz. And I do not want Paolo and Franz as catch and shoot guys on the perimeter. That's the last thing I want. I want some of these guys to be operating as just centers offensively. And that's why I think it's like crucial to have like Wendell Carter Jr. out there, who has been at one point in his career a respectable 3-point shooter. I mean, to start off this season from 3, he's shooting 25%. He was not a good 3-point shooter last year. You could trust Mo Wagner a little bit when he's fully healthy, ready to go. But it's been a lackluster start for the Orlando Magic this year. And I don't know if they would think about just saying, you know what, let's play Jace Richardson maybe a little bit more than Tyus Jones at one point this year. Jace got 8 minutes against the Bulls, and Tyus had 14 minutes in that game. We've seen a little Jett Howard this year, a little Jonathan Isaac. I mean, those guys are just like end of the rotation guys for this team at the moment, but they are way too talented, way too expensive to look this flat out of the gate. So I think that's just one of my takeaways. The Orlando Magic semi-slow start. Like I said, they play Philadelphia tonight. It could be a statement win. They could win by 20 on the road, and Paolo could have the best game of the year, and we're feeling good. But this is a team that had a 50-win projection going into the year, projected to be one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, and they haven't really looked like that so far. And the next thing I want to talk about, the San Antonio Spurs hot start this season. They've probably been the most talked about team in the NBA, and right now they're looking like the second best team in the Western Conference. It is a long season. They haven't really played like a tier 1 team yet or anything like that, so it's a long season. I don't want to be too like recency bias here or just prisoner of the moment. They start off the season with a very impressive win, though. They win 125-92, and then everybody's talking about Wemby, rightfully so. He looked like maybe the best player in the NBA in that game. 40 points, 15 rebounds, goes 9 of 11 from the free throw line, 15 of 21 from the field, as he only had to play 30 minutes in that game as they blow out the Dallas Mavericks, who are without Kyrie Irving and Daniel Gafford, but the Spurs also don't have De'Aaron Fox, their max level point guard that they're paying. And then they beat the Pelicans. Honestly, it was a really impressive performance by the Pelicans. I love Zion in that game. I love Trey Murphy in the game. I love the young guys, Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen in that game as well. And Wemby almost has a triple-double, so you're like, wow, he really got his teammates involved. No one blocks. He had 9 blocks in this one, 29 points, 11 rebounds. He eventually fouled out. He didn't hit a single 3 in this game. And then on Sunday, they had like the early game. It was like a 2 o'clock game on the East Coast, and they beat the Nets 118-107. Wemby has 31, 14, 6 blocks, 3 steals. So he's at 18 blocks through 3 games so far. He's not going to average 6 blocks per game, but will he? He could, honestly, given how much of a defensive stud he is right now. He's like by far the odds-on favorite to win the DPOY, as he was going into the year, and it was his DPOY last year, but he didn't meet the 65 game threshold because of the blood clot scare. He has looked like a top 4 player in the NBA. Like, I don't know. It's such a small sample size that I don't want to be too reactionary. Going into the year, it's Shea, Jokic, and Giannis in some way, shape, or form as your top 3. And I would say Luka was still number 4 for me. Is there a debate like Wemby could enter that top 3, maybe the top 2 at the end of the season? Because what he has going for him right now, he's the best defender out of that bunch. Giannis is a great defender, but Wemby is the best defender in the NBA, and Wemby's going to turn 22 in January, so he's got like 8 years younger than Jokic, and Giannis is a few years younger than Luka, who's been banged up already this year, who's had some unfortunate injury concerns in the past. And Shea, I mean, this guy is inevitable every single game, is he's going to get to 40 points regardless. I'm going to talk about the Thunder with one of my takeaways, so I'll keep my Shea takes for that one. But yeah, Wemby has looked like a true alien this year and has just been a joy to watch for the San Antonio Spurs. And I think like the young guards of Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper deserve a little bit more credit too. I mean, Harper was the youngest player in NBA history, the youngest guard to have 20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 0 turnovers in a game, which is a great stat line for the first time since like Andrew Wiggins, who was 19 when he did it. And I believe Dylan Harper, no, Wiggins might have been 20 when he did it, and Dylan Harper is 19, so that's what it was. But that was like 2015. So, yeah, this is Dylan Harper, the second overall pick. A pick they didn't really need. They were going to still have one of the best futures in the NBA regardless if they got the second pick, if they got the 9th pick. And they are 3-0 this year. Like I said, not against a tier 1 team. It's been the Mavericks, the Pelicans, and the Nets. So take it with a grain of salt. But they still don't have Jeremy Showen or De'Aaron Fox out there for this team as well. I love what I've seen defensively from Carter Bryant. He hasn't really played a ton of minutes because of like Keldon Johnson, Barnes. I'm glad Champagnie is getting a ton of playing time this year. They need his 3-point shooting, and he's been a good 3-point shooter, a good transition runner as well. Keldon Johnson had a really nice game against the Brooklyn Nets on Sunday, and they just have big man depth with Luke Kornet and Kelly Olynyk, who both haven't really played this year. We saw some Bismack Biyombo against the Nets, but when those guys are healthy, I trust Kornet and Kelly Olynyk up there with Victor Wembanyama in the front court. So, yeah, the Spurs have been the hottest team in the NBA this season. It's something to monitor all year long. Could Wemby be the youngest MVP in NBA history? He would be like about a couple months younger than Derrick Rose if he won it this year. So yeah, like he's going to turn 22 in January. Derrick Rose, I think, was like 22 at the start of his MVP season in the fall. So Wemby would be the youngest MVP in NBA history if he got it this year. I don't know what's going to happen, but he's averaging 33 points, 13 rebounds, 6 blocks, 57, 36, 73 splits to start off the year. He's the best defensive player in the sport. He's going to win DPOY as long as he hits the 65 game threshold. But if there's another level to Wemby's offensive game where he's averaging close to 30 points and he's the DPOY, I mean, the Spurs have to at least just have a 500 or above record, and he could be in consideration for the MVP award. 3-0 start. I mean, Ant's already banged up. Luka's banged up. LeBron's banged up. I think there's a path for the Spurs to actually be a top 3 seed this year. They're scary, man. They really are. And they don't even have De'Aaron Fox back. They don't have Jeremy Showen. Like the team is much deeper than it was last year or in Wemby's rookie year. I liked what Mitch Johnson has done so far. I think Wemby's been more of like a traditional big this year than like a guard, like a shooting guard like he was at the start of last year's season. And yeah, Wemby was the most hyped up player this offseason, and he's reaching those heights this year, and honestly, somehow even exceeding those expectations that already felt like unrealistic going into the year. So keeping an eye on the Spurs. Is the start for real? I'm pulling up their schedule now. Like the Spurs' next game is against the Raptors. Oh, man, and like Jakob Poeltl was not great in their last game against the Dallas Mavericks. So Wemby may feast. Miami's looking competitive. The Lakers might not have Luka when they play in November. I mean, Houston, I'm trying to look like when they play a tier 1 team. It's actually for a minute. Like, geez. They don't play OKC till December 23rd and on Christmas, which is going to be electric if both those teams are healthy. They play Cleveland in Denver or in December. They play Minnesota at the end of November. Ant could be back for that one. They play Denver at the end of November as well. So once we get to like the end of November, we'll see them playing the legitimate teams. But they could be the 1 seed in the Western Conference at the end of November, given this isn't the toughest schedule in the world. Like we got them against Golden State twice in mid-November. They still play like Houston and those teams as well. But yeah, the Spurs have looked great so far. I'm really excited to see what they look like when De'Aaron Fox gets back. And could Wemby be the youngest MVP in NBA history? Next up, I want to talk about maybe the most frustrating team to watch this year for me. the Sacramento Kings. I mean, you could say like the Orlando Magic have been really frustrating to watch, or maybe your favorite team is 1-2 or 0-3, and you think they're the most frustrating team to watch. As like a non like fan in me, because I don't think the Knicks have like really been that frustrating. The loss against the Heat was a little frustrating, but I will say the Sacramento Kings. Oh man, I think they have actually like a lot of talented individual players. Like if you talk about like overall good players on their team, I mean, Zach LaVine has been incredible this year. Domantas Sabonis is still an incredible offensive talented player. Dennis Schroeder is getting paid like a good point guard. Russell Westbrook can still make plays. He did that in their loss against the Lakers. I like Keon Ellis. I like Nick Clifford, who's banged up. I like Devin Carter, who's only played 3 total minutes in the first 3 games of the year. He was the 13th overall pick last year. That really looked good in Summer League. He's played 3 minutes so far because you have so many goddamn guards on this team. I've said it multiple times. I'm so happy Russell Westbrook is on a roster this season. He's talented enough to be on a roster right now. They didn't need Russell Westbrook. They didn't. And maybe if you didn't sign Dennis Schroeder, I would say, okay, it's fine to have Russ. But like they barely played Keon Ellis to start off the year. And then they play him against the LA Lakers, where this team has just no offensive like connectiveness. It feels so out of place right now with different play styles, different guys like wanting to take the ball. At least guys trying to like not play hero ball or like get to their spots, but like DeRozan is a scorer. DeRozan at this point of his career, who's playmaking a little bit to start off the year. He's not like a well-balanced guy. He's not a two-way player. He needs the ball in his hands to succeed. Zach LaVine is a very talented scorer. He should probably be your number 1 scoring option right now, working a 2-man game with Sabonis, who missed the start of the season. But it's just like clogging the paint. This team with Russ, Schroeder, Sabonis, DeRozan has way too many non-shooters out there, and also not enough defenders on this team. Keon Ellis, Nick Clifford, who's banged up, so I can't say that they would play him more, and Devin Carter are some of your best defenders on your roster, and you are barely playing them because you have so many guards here that you're going to value Russ as a veteran. You're going to value Dennis Schroeder, what you're paying him. You're going to value Malik Monk more than those guys just because they have the status in the league, but like Keon Ellis is never going to develop here. I need Keon Ellis on a different team. I'm worried about Devin Carter. He's not going to really crack this rotation unless they actually cut back on some of the minutes of one of the veteran guards or somebody gets injured, which you don't want. Keegan Murray is a good defender, maybe the best defender on this team, but he is not going to turn this team around because they have too many offensive driven players. I got done watching the Lakers-Kings game this morning, and goddamn, it was so frustrating to watch the Sacramento Kings defense, where they just have no chemistry, no communication whatsoever, and just limited rim protection. I came away with like the best defender in that game was Dylan Cardwell, who was an undrafted player out of Auburn, who honestly made some nice defensive plays, but is undrafted. He does not need to be playing 13 minutes out there, although I like the minutes better than Eubanks or Sarge. They were just bad in their minutes. They got the quick plug. I'm glad Doug Christie opted for Dylan Cardwell, who hopefully can actually be like the backup rim protector on this team. Because Maxime right now, as much as I like his offensive game, that's not what they need. It's just not at the moment. I'm just frustrated watching the Kings because I think they have a lot of individual talent. I know they probably were going to move to Rosen. I don't know why they signed Dennis Schroeder to the contract they signed him to. I don't mind Malik Monk as like an initiator. But Monk has struggled defensively. Russ was fine. It's either Russ or Schroeder, and they signed both of them, and both of them are playing around 30 minutes per game to start off this year's season. Keon Ellis did start. He struggled at times, but the fact you gave up 127 points to the Lakers, who don't have Luka Doncic, who don't have LeBron James, and Austin Reeves went for 51. He got to the free throw line and shot 22 free throws in this one. Some of it was good calls, some of it was bad calls, but it's just like no LeBron, no Luka, and you gave up 127 points, 51 points to one guy. You gave up 22 points to DeAndre Ayton. You gave up 18 points to Hashimura, 11 points to Marcus Smart, 11 to Moravia, who even shot 3 for 10 in this game. I don't know, man. I'm frustrated with the Kings because I don't know what they are. And I think we had that question mark in the offseason. Will they actually be a team that wants to be competitive, that will make the playoffs, that will be trying to win a playoff series like they almost did in 2023? Or is this going to be a team that ends up selling off at the deadline and is going to get a top pick in the draft, or at least try to get one? But yeah, they're 1-2 to start off the year. They ended up losing to the Suns I mean, they didn't have Sabonis in that game. Suns didn't have Jalen Green. They could have won that game. They barely beat the Utah Jazz by 1. Maybe the Jazz are better than their preseason expectations. But yeah, they lose to the Lakers by 7. And that one I was just frustrated with. They play the Thunder tomorrow. I wonder how that game is going to go. Maybe they proved me wrong. They start basically a 4-game road trip. They have the Thunder, Bulls, Bucks, and the Nuggets. I mean, the Bulls are 3-0, so I got to give them respect. Thunder are 3-0. Giannis is looking great for the Bucks. The Nuggets are still one of the best teams in the league. And then you have Golden State, Oklahoma City, maybe Minnesota without Ant, and then Denver again, and then Atlanta, Minnesota, San Antonio. I'm like looking through their schedule right now. They may not be favorites in a game. I don't know if they're going to be favorites against Chicago. I don't even know if I can see that line. But if they aren't, they're not going to be enough like favorites to win a game, I think. I mean, they're home against Atlanta on November 12th. It depends how they're looking then. November 20th at Memphis, maybe. Maybe against Minnesota on the 9th of November if Ant's out, which I think he will be out for that one. But I don't know, man. I think the Kings are in a tough spot right now, and I think they did it to themselves. I hope we see more Devin Carter. He got like a DNP, coach's decision to start off the year. He played 3 minutes last night against the Lakers. Yeah, I just think like it's too early to figure out if a team needs a trade, but how many cards do we have on this roster? I mean, free Devin Carter, free Keon Ellis a little bit more. Maybe they're a team that ends up making a trade. Does anybody want a Malik Monk? I would say like Milwaukee was a team to eye for that this year, but they've actually gotten good guard play out of like Cole Anthony, Ryan Rollins, and Kevin Porter Jr. shouldn't be out too long. AJ Green and Gary Trent Jr. have knocked down shots this year. So yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe Phoenix. I don't know if they really want another guard maybe this year. I don't know. It's too early to talk trades, but I think Sacramento is a team that could probably benefit from one. They could use more big man depth. I think it's a lot of pressure on Dylan Cardwell. And it's just like, what is your best closing lineup out there? Like, I think Keon Ellis should be in your closing lineup. It's Levine. It's Sabonis. Is it crazy to say it shouldn't be DeRozan and should be Keegan Murray when he's healthy? And then, like, what guard do you want? I mean, I'm fine with Monk. I'm fine with Russ. I just don't need, like, Russ and Shooter out there or Russ, Shooter, and Monk all out there at the same time. So that was a rant about the Sacramento Kings. I want them to succeed, but I'm just not a fan of how this team is built and how it's been allocated so far this year. All right, I was going to talk about like the 2025 draft class as a whole, but I did make a video on my Sauce channel kind of talking about like a brief summary of every single draft pick so far and what's going on there. So I want to talk about the Miami Heat. Team I feel like should be talked about a little bit more. They just picked up their second win on Sunday against the New York Knicks, who were 2-0 to start off this year's season. They beat them 115-107. They ended up beating the Grizzlies 146-114. And they were in control for most of the game against Orlando, but they ended up losing by 4 to start off the year. And they don't have Tyler Hero right now because Spurs Jonas has been banged up. And if he's not like as important of a player, but if he was, maybe this team would have a little bit more like bad vibes. But no, Terry Rozier was not going to really play a lot this year, I think, to begin with. And he is on immediate leave. He got arrested. You guys already know what's happening with Rozier. So I have been very impressed by the Miami Heat, who are not really running a lot of like pick and roll. They've been running some really quick lineups out there. It's kind of just like get the ball and get out and going, which hasn't really been the Heat's style in the past. They've been more of a slower paced team, more of just like a methodical, like we're going to beat you through our sets or offensive schemes, but they have just been getting the ball and running, which I love because that's where Norman Powell can succeed. Maybe that's where Jaime Jaquez can succeed as well because he has looked great to start off the year. Simone Fontecchio has looked great to start off the year. This team is loaded with wing depth right now with what Norman Powell is doing. Hero's going to be back soon. You know, at the minimum, he's going to be a good scorer. And then you have like Wiggins, who's a connecting piece, who's getting rebounds, who's playing defense. Jovic has been off to a fine start this year as well. He's shooting around 40% from three. Khalil Ware, good big man depth because Bam Adebayo is still one of the better big man defenders in the sport. He's averaging about 19 points and 10 rebounds this year. He has struggled a little bit inside as a scorer, but you got to be thrilled that this team has been this good offensively with Bam getting off to a little bit of a slower start. I don't hate the Drew Smith minutes. Davion Mitchell had a really good first game against the Orlando Magic where he was just making reads, finding his guys early in kind of the progression of the sets. And then against the Memphis Grizzlies, like I said, they blow them out 146-114. Davion Mitchell really didn't do too much in that game. And I think against the Knicks, he struggled, if I'm remembering it correctly, in terms of his efficiency. But that game was close for like 3.5 quarters, and they kind of pulled away at the start of the fourth. I mean, Mitchell didn't take a ton of shots, but this guy is still a great defender. He has the nickname Off Night for a reason. And they got basically Simone Fontecchio for the Duncan Robinson sign and trade. They got Norman Powell for Kyle Anderson, Kevin Love in a second. Like, these pickups are looking good for Miami right now, and them doing what they're doing without Hero, I think has been incredibly impressive. I wasn't that high on them going into the year, and hey, it's a 2-1 start. They could fizzle out a little bit. We've seen this before, but I don't know. You got to trust Spo, and maybe it's when in doubt you should trust Spo. And this team is never going to like rebuild or finish outside the lottery or around that range. Like maybe their minimum is just the play-in tournament this year, and they've looked a lot better than some of the other teams that were maybe in their tier going into the year. Like if you ask somebody Celtics or Heat, I think some people would have taken the Celtics. I wouldn't have, but if you asked me like Hawks or Heat, I was saying Hawks, or Magic or Heat, I was saying Magic without even like thinking twice about it. And the Heat have looked more impressive than those teams this year. I mean, yeah, you take a screenshot of like the Eastern Conference standings with like Chicago 1, Philly 2, Charlotte 3, Miami 4. Neither one of those four could even be in the top 8 at one point this season. But Miami's not running a lot of pick and rolls. And I think it's working this year, which I think is really exciting about the Heat. For a team, like, I feel bad for their fans. They had so much drama last year. Their player that was like the most beloved player since Dwayne Wade and LeBron had so much drama circulating him in the 2025 season. He didn't want to play for the Heat. Some of it justified, some of it not. And now it just feels like everybody wants to be there. Everybody's working hard. Spo doesn't have the drama. And this team, who at least got like one first-round pick in Wiggins for Jimmy, and like Kasparis and Wiggins that have actually been key contributors. They moved Kyle Anderson for Norman Powell, so you can maybe say that was part of the Jimmy Butler trade. The Heat have been fun, and maybe it's a flash in the pan. We'll see. We'll see how much it changes throughout the course of the season, but they've been good this year. All right, next up, I want to talk about like the Pacers and the Celtics, kind of a duo takeaway here. They have struggled to start off the year. Both of those teams are 0-3 this season. The Pacers have had a difficult start to the year on paper. They played great against OKC, who's been banged up, but that game went to double overtime. Mathurin looked great. They lose to Memphis by 25. Mathurin looked great in that game as well. Siakam had the best game against Minnesota, a team that lost Anthony Edwards early in the game, and they still lost by 4. The Indiana's just had so many injuries this year. They maybe are the most banged up team in the NBA. You know Halliburton's out for the year, tore his Achilles in the finals. Before the season started early in November, TJ McConnell ends up getting a hamstring injury. He's going to miss a little bit of time. Cam Jones, their second-round pick, who I thought is NBA ready coming out of Marquette, has like a off-the-court issue and then also injured his back as well. So he's out for a little bit. Johnny Furphy, Obi Toppin, Benedict Mathurin, Andrew Nembhard, Talion Peter are also all banged up right now. A bunch of those guys missed Sunday's game against the Minnesota Timberwolves, in which they lost by 4. Siakam played great in this one, but like, they started a lineup with Siakam at the 3, Isaiah Jackson at the 4, and Jay Huff at the 5, with Ben Shepherd playing 32 minutes in this game. Yeah, Ben Shepherd. I don't know what to make of like the Indiana Pacers right now, because this is not who they are. Half their team is banked up, maybe even more than half their team that actually should be playing, where Tony Bradley played 25 minutes, Ray J. Davis played 27 minutes, Quentin Jackson played 10 minutes, and I don't know. Jarris Walker is not going to be, I think, the offensive player we thought coming out of Houston. I like the defense. I like the physicality inside. I think he makes good reads. I would have liked the offense to look a little bit better this year. I would have liked for it to be a little bit easier for him to get to his spots and knock down at least semi-difficult shots. But the shots haven't really been falling for Jarris Walker this year. He did struggle against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I thought they did a good job defensively on him. He struggled against the Memphis Grizzlies as well, but he looked good against the OKC Thunder. So I don't know what the season is going to be for Walker. I think Benedict Mathurin has looked incredibly impressive as a scorer. Hopefully he could play 65 plus games this year, because he could win most improved player. And with Miles Turner gone and Halliburton sidelined, he was somebody that was going to have an increase of opportunities to step up. So we'll see what happens with Indiana this year. They luckily got their first round pick back with that trade with the Pelicans in the offseason. So we'll see if they're going to be like a tanking team or a team that is going to rest their guys rather than having them play through injuries at some point this year, and they can maybe land a top player in the draft. We'll see though. It's a long season. It's only 3 games so far. And then Boston, I mean, they've had a semi-tough start to the year, so I think they were pretty in line with like Philadelphia in terms of like preseason expectations. They lose by 1. It was a winnable game. They kind of blew it in the fourth quarter. It's what they're missing with Jason Tatum and some of those veterans. They lose 117-116. Then they lose to the Knicks by 10. That game was never really too close. And then they ended up losing to the Pistons yesterday by 6. So they're 0-3. It's kind of like a territory they don't like, or they're not familiar with this, being 0-3 to start off the year. I've actually liked Jaylen Brown as a number 1 scoring option. I think he's been pretty good this year, and I think his assist numbers, which are around like 3.5, would look better if Derek White wasn't shooting essentially 32% from the field. Peyton Pritchard is shooting 18% from three. Anthony Simons is shooting 27% or 29% from three, excuse me. And like they've had a rotation of big men so far this year. It's been like a little bit of Kada, a little bit of Boucher. Garza got a concussion. So Xavier Tillman has had to play a little bit as well. Like 0-3 this year. They're one of the winless teams in the league. I mean, it's kind of what we expected, right? Like their defense is looking okay at times, but it struggles when like Derek White isn't on the floor and Jaylen Brown is on the floor. Brown, White, and Pritchard are playing about 35 minutes a game. We knew that Brown was going to have to become a number one. White and Pritchard were going to have to be like a high-end 3, low-end 2 this year. Pritchard was good against the Pistons, but both of them have really struggled this year with their increased workload so far this season. Brown's taking around 20 shots. White's around 18. Pritchard hasn't gotten too much. I think he's actually gone down in shots from last year. He's taking about 13 a night. Last year, he shot around, I think 14 a night, if I remember correctly. No, he shot 11 a night. My bad. So he's gone up a little bit this year. I think the 14 was like the points per game I was thinking of. But yeah, Boston, keep an eye on them as well. Jaylen Brown gets like a 2-week injury. Does that turn into a 4-week injury? Do they even rush Jason Tatum back? This team owns their first round pick. They're going to have more financial flexibility in the offseason. Maybe they end up saying, you know what? Let's try our chances at a top pick. What if we could add a Jaden Quainance? What if we could add a Cameron Boozer to this roster and we can maybe go back to what we were in 2024? I also think my second and last takeaway here is I think the Golden State Warriors are better than what we initially thought going into the year. So they beat the Lakers by 10. Good start to the year. No LeBron in that one. Then they beat the Nuggets by 6. That maybe is going to be game of the year in the game of the year conversation. Aaron Gordon has 50. Steph takes over in the fourth quarter. They win in overtime. And then they had, it wasn't the back-to-back, was it? Or no, I think it was a back-to-back where they played Portland. I forget if that game was on Friday or Saturday. Can I just get the date of this game? Okay, it was on Saturday. So either way, like the Warriors lose by 20 to the Blazers on the road. You're going to lose eventually, right? And the Blazers are objectively a good team. They're better than what they've been in the past. But I do think Golden State can I don't know if they're going to leapfrog Houston. I don't know if they're going to leapfrog, I don't know. I don't think Denver, maybe Minnesota. So I think going into the year, it was OKC as a 1, Denver as a 2, Houston as a 3, but maybe the injury to Fred VanVleet dropped them a little bit. People definitely like the Clippers and the Timberwolves more than Golden State, but this team feels deep in the Bay Area. Steph is aging like fine wine. This guy is still somebody we have to take for granted and how good of a scorer and as a shooter he is. Jimmy Butler has looked the part this year. His first full time as a Warrior in the offseason. He's not turning the ball over. He's making good decisions. He plays winning basketball. Jonathan Kuminga also has kind of bought in offensively this year. He's making better reads this year. He's looked better as a defender. You know what you're getting out of Draymond. Buddy Hield's hitting his threes. Al Horford is exactly what this team has been missing as a veteran, smart passer, good three-point shooter, solid defender. I mean, Will Richard has been, I think, one of the more impressive rookies so far this year, flying all around the floor, being a role player like he was at times for the Gators last year, and he's looked the part this year. Moses Moody just came back. Maybe Pods could be a little bit better to start off the year. He struggled kind of around the rim, but I think he's going to be fine. He got off to a slow start last year. And you still have Jackson Davis and Quentin Pose. These guys don't need to play a ton anymore because you have Horford and Draymond that could be your centers. And on a back-to-back, they'll have to play a little bit as well. But yeah, I think it's been very impressive so far for the Golden State Warriors. And I think they're going to be a little bit better than we thought. And going back, it was a back-to-back between the Nuggets and the Blazers. So second night of a back-to-back on the road in Portland. That team's going to be super physical. It's going to happen. You're going to lose those games for sure. But I'm not saying this team has a good shot at winning the finals. Maybe they need to make a move at the deadline. It's a long season. Somebody could get hurt. Are they still going to trade Kuminga? I don't know. But I do think Golden State is maybe closer to OKC and Denver than we initially thought going into the season. And my last takeaway, can the OKC Thunder win 70 games this year? Legitimately, could they break the record for the most wins in an NBA regular season in history? We know it's 73. That's what the the Warriors did in 2016. The Thunder 3-0 this year with plenty of injuries. They have been maybe up there with the Pacers as the most banged up team in the NBA. So we knew that J-Dub was going to miss the start of the year. He's going to be out tonight again against the Dallas Mavericks. Isaiah Joe has been hurt to start off the year. Caruso got a concussion at the start of the season. Topic, we know his injury. Kenrich Williams is out for a little bit. Thomas Sorber's out for the year. Even Case and Wallace missed their second game against the Indiana Pacers, and they win that one in double OT. Shea has 55 in that one, and Chet struggles in game 2. but bounced back in game number 3. He had 31 and 11 in that one, beating like 3 respectable teams. The Rockets, the Pacers, and the Atlanta Hawks are all solid teams. Like, when's the next time they're going to be an underdog in a matchup? Like, looking at their schedule, I don't know, to be honest with you. They don't play Denver for a little bit, which is kind of odd because they're in the same division. Like, I'm looking at their schedule, so they don't play Denver till, okay, I gotta be looking at this wrong because they're in the same division, right? So they played Denver for the first time on February 1st. Is that true? Wow, that's crazy. I don't think the schedule makers cooked with that one. December 1st, or February 1st. Then they play February 27th, March 9th, and then April 10th. Okay, so I don't know. It's going to be a minute. I don't know when they're going to be an underdog this year. They may never be an underdog this year. They're 3-0 already. Shea's looking like he can go back-to-back in MVPs. AJ Mitchell may win most improved, which I don't like to see for sophomores. But this leap, I don't know. Like, he's been legit this year. He's averaging 19 points through their first 3 games. That's going to go down when J-Dub and like Caruso come back, but he's been great. They've had to throw out like Chris Youngblood, Brooks Barnhizer, Braden Carlson, Usman Jang this year as well. So I don't know, man. This Thunder team is absolutely stacked. They're still elite defensively. If Chet takes a leap, what if J-Dub takes a leap? I mean, like, Mitchell's taking a leap right now as well. This team could win 70 games. I mean, 74 is so hard. Injuries are going to happen. But they won 68 last year, and they were banged up last year as well. So they're going to have to stay healthy. It's not a hot take to say, no, they're not going to win 74 games. They're going to get close to 70. They could definitely clip 70 this year. And I do wonder when, like, are they the first team to 30, 40, 50 wins this year? Probably. So that's going to be for me. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Just Ballin' podcast. Those are pretty much 7 takeaways this year. Talked about the Orlando Magic struggles, the Spurs hot start, Sacramento Kings talent issues right now, the Miami Heat's hot start, Pacers and Celtics struggling, the Warriors good start, and the Thunder's elite start this year. If you guys did enjoy it, appreciate leaving a like on YouTube. Let me know what you think in the comments. Leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to help the podcast grow. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.